Hello everybody, it's Carpo, and today I am going to talk about a subject that I haven't mentioned before, but something that I guess we are all familiar with, which is mental chatter. And the idea behind meditation really, in essence, is to reduce or eliminate mental chatter for a time, which gets you closer to source. And it's not a matter of meditating on a particular thing. When I was younger and I first got introduced to meditation, I used to say, I need to go meditate on getting this done or getting that done, not realizing the real meaning behind meditation. The Buddhists called the chatter, they called it the monkey mind, or maybe it was the Hindus. The monkey mind in the sense of swinging from branch to branch. And it's not necessarily reasoning in your mind, but rather those situations that we play over and over. Or for some people it may be a particular phrase or a statement. I have a few of my own, which I won't get into. And some people may think that that's like OCD or something like that, but everyone has it. It's the voice in your mind, and some people let it run their mind. And this is how we get a lot of delusional folks who believe that the voice in their head is superior to their own thoughts. In other words, it gets a little bit out of hand. Mental chatter is a little bit different from a voice in your head. That's what I'm saying. Somebody used the analogy of a warehouse. If you have a lot going on in your mind, if you know a lot of things and have a lot of knowledge, it does no good if you have it all packed in. If you go into your home and you have 20 couches and everything's packed up tight to where you can't live in it, that becomes overwhelming to some. And it creates a lot of that background chatter, a lot of the information while you're trying to process ideas that you may have. Bad decisions are made under pressure. I'll leave that one for the end. I have a couple notes here that I'm trying to make so I don't lose my place. I had these ideas that, the gap. They call it the gap, which is this gap between thoughts. If you're thinking about things in your mind, there's a small gap between going to the next thought. And some people have suggested that you increase that gap and work on creating a gap that's large enough to eventually become the norm. An example is if you're sitting out in nature and you're thinking about bills and you're not in the moment. If you're sitting out in nature and you're conscious of the trees and your mind is thinking and processing what you're seeing, that's not mental chatter, that's observation. I say the reason why Mind the Gap was such an interesting thing to me is because it's just like music. I heard a musician say one time, I can't remember who it was, and this was back when I was like 16 or 17. He said, it's not the music that drives you, it's the space between the beats. And that was a revelation to me. It was the complete, all-in-one essence. It was an epiphany, because it doesn't just apply to music. In other words, the events in our life are not necessarily the excitement, it's the space between it, the anticipation, or the time between these events, this hang time, limbo. So I think the idea is to balance the future and the past with the present. In other words, the mental chatter doesn't have to extend to mean that you can't think about the future. I think a lot of people take living in the now too far, and they ask, how can I possibly just live in the moment? And I think that through the process of effort and practice, because it's something you have to learn how to do. It's just like positive thinking. You can't, just jump on and just expect to know how to do it all the time. You have to train your brain to see the positive in situations. And likewise, you have to train your brain to eliminate mental chatter. And I'll be honest, it's something that is one of my biggest conflicts in my practices, is to try to eliminate this mental chatter, which tends to, at times, become overwhelming. I've noticed that it happens the most when I've had too much caffeine or I'm too hyped up. So the more I relax, the less mental chatter I have. And I wrote this word down. It doesn't really relate to the mental chatter, I guess. It's called obscurantism, and it is the opposition to enlightenment. And I think the reason why I put it on here, and I wrote, man, oh yeah, okay, well, you can leave that to a different one. I just wanted to basically sum it up by saying, since we're supposedly made in God's image, in my eyes, that means that knowing the self is knowing God. And this is why the more we learn to know ourselves, the more things that we have on our mind, the more things that we're concerned about, the more things that we're curious about, and the more mental chatter we tend to have. And the fact that there's a word that is opposition to enlightenment, I don't know, I just found that fascinating. Obscurantism. Because the more you have to think about, the more it can distract you. But I think a lot of people misunderstand philosophy and wisdom and take it to the point where they think that a person who thinks about these things is constantly overwhelmed with thoughts and ideas. If you don't control yourself and harness it, you can be. For me, it's not like that. I feel like knowledge reaches a plateau. Not that you know any more than you can know. I mean, there's always something more to learn. But you reach a certain plateau where you realize, okay, now I know how to filter out things I don't need through the wisdom of understanding, saying, okay, well, this particular subject obviously isn't a concern to me and has been proven to be a waste of time. Therefore, all of the subgenres and sub-subjects of it all are going to be cast out as well, so you can really hone your skills down to a particular things that are of interest, which means you can slow that mental chatter down, at least some of the stuff that's related to the present. Now, a lot of people tend to have mental chatter of the past. This is what I've been told, because this isn't my situation. A lot of people run over past scenarios and situations in their head over and over. How could I have done this differently? Or what did I do wrong? Or what did they do wrong to me? And I think that that can be very beneficial to overcome. I don't have that kind of mental chatter. It's usually scenarios and subjects that haven't even happened. In other words, my mental chatter is philosophy in the sense of I'm seeking to understand what would happen in certain situations. It's almost like I'm running through simulations of life in my mind, and I need to stop that too. That's all distractions of the present, in the moment. So I was just talking to my mom a little while ago about stepping outside the self and looking at yourself, and she said she'd never done that before, and I thought maybe people haven't tried that as much as I assumed that everyone did this, that you picture your face, yourself, I guess, your essence, your consciousness outside of your body, about 10 feet out and up, and watch yourself as you're acting and doing your routine. It's a very interesting process. It's not astral projection, it's just merely a visualization. But it can give us a lot of insight into why we think the things we do and why these thoughts go through our heads, because the number one key to eliminating fear is eliminating the mental chatter that creates fear. Because you might run through simulation after simulation until you get yourself worked up over something that will never happen. Always deal with the situations that we can actually handle. So those are the words I've got today. And I hope everybody's doing fantastic and enjoying a beautiful day like I am. Namaste.